When belief and truth collide in a world full of danger, the story of the Diamond of Uma will take you to face the unexpected. Part 1. Several large jeeps slowly rolled through the huge iron gates that opened wide. Wildlife entered in a line. The roar of engines in low gear as they slowed down through the gates. The usual shouts of greetings and the chaotic sounds that accompanied every arrival of wildlife were mixed together in an incomprehensible manner. Dozens of workers inside the place were running around to greet them or unloading crates, preparing to unload the various wild animals in cages. It was the largest and most modern quarantine station for animals to be shipped abroad. It was located on an area of no less than 15 rai, surrounded by strong concrete walls. The company's premises were a modern building in the center of an area surrounded by cages for all kinds of animals, from small bird cages to elephant pens. It was almost like a small zoo, halfway between the civilization of the capital and the savage wilderness of the jungle. A man in khaki, half hanging on the front of the first truck to pass through the gate, got out of the truck and stood under a large rain tree near the archway. Take off the big brimmed hat with a strip of tiger skin, pat it against the leg, dust flies up, take out a cigarette and light it, brown eyes squint. Look at the trucks passing by one, the doors come in one by one, every now and then shout an order to the driver. In the luxurious living room in the office building, Amphan Pluckhorn, director of Thai Wildlife Company, breaks away from the conversation. Walks to pull the aluminum blinds up, looks through the glass window, and then the mouth is swollen. There he is, he's here. The three guests, two mature gentlemen and a young lady, quickly get up from the sofa, walk to the window, and focus their eyes on the target below. About 150 meters away, one eye. Standing by the door. The first person to ask was a tall man, fair-skinned, square-chinned, with a thin mustache above his lips, elegant and cool. Yes. That's the person the young master wants to meet, the director of Thai Wildlife Company replied politely. Another man who was standing next to him whistled or looked cheerful, always excited and strong like a brave man. Damn, I feel like I like him even though I saw him from a distance like this. A slender young woman, similar to the first man, but with an oval face, large eyes, sharp and always sparkling. At this moment, she did not look at the image with her naked eyes like everyone else, but used compact binoculars to adjust the lenses to focus there. She smiled a little and shrugged when the camera lens gave a clearer image, as if the target was standing far away in front of her, just an arm's reach away. His reputation seems to contradict his appearance at this moment, she said in a clear voice and laughed softly. I first thought with my eyes closed that he should be in his 40s or older, at least 6 feet tall, but it was the opposite. He was very small, probably no taller than 5 feet 7 inches at most, very thin and slender. I didn't like his fierce face. No smile at all. This is Rapin PART1, the famous hunter we will have to rely on. He may be small, my lady, but whether it's skill or kindness, this man is great. Moreover, he is a complete gentleman. He is a real man, the kind that is hard to find. I will send someone to invite him. Come up now. Rapin PART1 flicked the cigarette butt down and crushed it with the tip of his dusty shoe. When the last car passed through the gate, he pulled out a towel to wipe the sweat off his neck and blew air out of his mouth as if to drive away the heat of the afternoon sun in mid-March. Mr. Prazer, the manager of the animal quarantine station, walked through the chaotic group of local workers and hurriedly greeted them with a smile before reaching them in a familiar manner. Before reaching them, Rapin smiled and greeted them back. You're standing here yourself, Rapin. The director asked me to invite you to go up to the company. Yes, I'll go up. I just arrived. It's so hot. I'll watch the workers transporting those things. Get off. Nothing is as important as that, Rhino. We're in a hurry. Cages seem a bit fragile. If they're not transported properly, they might break, and then it'll be a big mess. He spoke in a low voice, his usual low voice, looking at the current transport. It seems to be very lively this time. There are 7 trucks. How is it? Did you get the full amount according to the order? 5. No. The two of them stood talking amidst the noisy voices of the local workers who were working, mixed with the roars of the animals around them. The only thing missing is the monkeys. This time we only got a little over 1,200. We still need half a dozen. I don't know what happened. This time the herds have all moved away. But the big animals seem to be more than what I or Mr. Amphan had expected at first. Aside from the 2-ton rhinoceros that we got by chance like a dream, I also have a baby gore as a gift for Mr. Amphan. 2 lie fat clan, 5 tigers and 3 black ones. Especially the black leopards. If you and Mr. Amphan saw them, you would be shocked. I admit that I have never seen a black leopard as big as this one. It is almost as big as Lai. Moreover, it is a tiger of the prime age with no blemishes or disfigurement at all. The other animals are exactly as listed as I send you. Everything is in advance. This time, you must have been carrying a lot of money, said Mr. Prassett with a laugh. Rapin Prewin shrugged. This time I invested a lot. In addition to the capital and expenses, the hardship that almost killed me. I also lost 2 good local hunters who had worked with me since the beginning. One was completely crushed because of that rhinoceros, and the other will probably be disabled for life. Do you think it's worth the money I'm going to get this time, Mr. Prassett? By the way, what are you doing, Mr. Amphan? In the private guest room in the administration building. There are 3 guests. They came by private car from Bangkok and arrived here a little before noon. I think they are important people who are very familiar with the director. They are currently talking. They are 2 young men and 1 woman. I've never seen them before. When you arrived, the director told me to come and get you up here. He nodded, not paying much attention to what the manager, Mr. Prassett, said. Okay. You go tell Mr. Amphan that I'll go up in a moment and take care of this matter first. The manager left. Rapin walked away to control the workers who were transporting the animal cages in a very lively manner at this moment. The large and dangerous animals were carefully unloaded from the trucks in order. Some were taken to be released into the iron cages of the quarantine station that had been prepared beforehand. Some were temporarily kept in the wooden cages that were used to pack them. It was not an easy job to do. This moment, a large solid-lidded wooden cage, similar to a crate, containing the largest black leopard, was being pushed by 4 or 5 workers to the rear loading area of the truck, where 2 large wooden boards were used as a bridge to slow it down. The sound of the jungle beast roaring and growling echoed in the dense cage, mixed with the cheers of the local workers who were pushing the sled. It was quite amusing. Rapin frowned in annoyance, strode from another truck, walked straight in quickly, and shouted a warning to the local workers about the joyfulness. The noise and playfulness of those people were like provoking the jungle beast to become excited and violent, and to show his power. Struggling and trying to break out of the cage instead of calming down. He had not even reached there when the workers pushed the black leopard cage to the 2 wooden boards that were used as a bridge, and then helped lift the crate up onto the wood so that it would slide down to the floor below. Was it because those people were too busy playing and seeing it as fun? Or was it because the carelessness of the other 3 workers who were standing below for some reason or another caused a wooden board that was placed between the back of the truck and the ground to slip and touch the edge of the back of the truck just slightly? Rapin happened to glance over and see it. Hey! Watch out for that wooden bridge! He shouted at the top of his lungs. But too late. Before his warning could be finished, the large cage containing the Black Panther, which was now lifted up and placed on 2 wooden boards, ready to be lowered with ropes to slowly slide it down to the ground, suddenly fell down as a whole. Because the wooden board that was placed precariously escaped from being attached to the edge of the truck. The cage, made of rough wood, not very securely held, hit the ground below with a loud bang. Part of it broke off immediately, along with a loud roar of the king of the jungle, amidst the astonishment of all the workers. A gigantic black panther, it scrambled wildly at the sight of the gap of freedom, and in a flash, it sped out, plunging at the workers standing nearest it, more in a terrified urge to flee than to harm. The man let out a shriek, fell to the ground, his face clawed and mangled, one of his eyes missing, blood spurting out. The black panther lunged at each person in the direction it had leapt, scattering blood everywhere. Amidst the terrified cries of the workers who had been afflicted, and the whole area of the quarantine station was in chaos. Everyone ran for their lives, shouting incoherently to each other, "Hey! Tiger has escaped! Damn it! The black one has escaped! Watch out!" Rapin Prewin came to his senses in an instant. The lion swooped past the workers who were running around in panic, and quickly came towards him. The hunter leapt to hide in front of the pot of the truck. It narrowly missed his face, and then ran away, roaring towards the intricate area of cages of other animals, which were now roaring loudly due to the panic. He turned to shout at the guard at the door to quickly close the iron cage door, preventing the tiger from breaking out of the area. At the same time, he shouted for the workers to hurry and hide in the administration building. Everyone was running around in a chaotic mess. Many people were injured by the fangs and claws of the fierce tiger. But no one died at that moment because it was awake and did not intend to kill or attack anyone in particular. It only slapped anyone who was close to its face for a short while. Many people grabbed their guns and ran out firing loudly. It didn't matter where they were, they couldn't stop it. It only provoked it, making it even more ferocious. The shooting wasn't very effective because the group of workers who were running away were scattered, including other animals in the cages who might have been hit by stray bullets and caused damage. The guns the workers were using were all shotguns. Each person was shooting in excitement and shock, unconscious. Rapin stood with his head bowed, swearing and muttering in his throat. He didn't know what to decide. It seemed to be no use trying to stop the workers who were holding guns. Suddenly, Mr. Prazzard, the manager, ran out of the administration building, panting and shouting at the workers in a high-pitched voice, "Hey! Stop shooting! Everyone, don't shoot! You'll just kill each other! You all get out of the way!" So they all ran away and hid in the administration building. The manager ran towards him, who seemed to be the only one standing in the open area in the middle of the animal quarantine station near the parked cars, shouting in a low voice, "Mr. Rapin, take care of that black guy, Krua. It's a big mess." "How do you want me to take care of him?" he asked grimly. "The director told you to shoot him. Hurry up. Someone or something will be mauled to death. Blood will be everywhere." Mr. Prassit's tongue twisted, his face pale and his eyes wide. The hunter chuckled in his throat. "Your workers are really unbearable, Mr. Prassit. Even though I've been closely monitoring their work, everything they do is a joke." Before I could even finish warning them, something bad happened. "This black leopard is the most beautiful. To be honest, I want to catch it alive." "Oh, no way. It's going to be a disaster. If you keep thinking about catching it alive, shoot it." That's what the director ordered. "I'm not responsible for this black leopard because it's in your quarantine station. Shoot it, but let me tell you first that you can't lower the price with me." "Of course, don't worry about that. The fault lies with our company," the manager said quickly. Rapin Praywin shook his head slowly again, leaned into the car, grabbed a 3006, and grabbed the quarantine station manager's arm. Pushing Run into the car, "Stay there. Don't come out until everything is settled." Then he reached into the pocket of his hunting jacket, took out a silver tip, pulled out the slide, put a single bullet into the chamber, slammed the slide shut, and followed the trail of the black one, which he had seen disappearing towards the old cage on the left side of the area. All eyes were fixed on the hunter's body, with a single eye, with a short heart, including the company director and 3 other guests who had seen everything from the beginning through the glass window with excitement. His sharp and quick eyes began to scan carefully around him. When he slowly walked between the hornbill cages under the shade of a large golden trumpet tree near a dense gully, he stopped, his nerves alert when he heard a roar coming from that gully. A flock of hornbills in the large net cage were startled, screeching and flying around. Looking through the net cage to the gully opposite, he saw closed green eyes, open red beaks, and a green and white cage. Idam was lying there, licking the wound from the shotgun pellets lodged in his hips, caused by the workers' haphazard shooting. He raised his rifle calmly, his eyes fixed on the target, which was no more than 10 meters away, with a hornbill cage in between. Idam quickly leapt up, sprinting up the tree, and when he reached the tree trunk, he crouched down, ears down, opened his mouth and bared his fangs at him, his eyes blazing with ferocity. And in the blink of an eye, he swooped down, spreading his claws and lunging fiercely over the back of the hornbill cage. Rapin drew his gun barrel as it climbed up the champa tree, and then it swooped. Inch 30.06s exploded everywhere. It was a point-blank shot. The body of the large black panther hit the hunter's body with force. He fell down. Behind him, the gun flew out of his hand and bounced. The tiger rolled and trembled there. Only its long tail swung back and forth a few times before it became still. The manager of the place and the workers rushed Inch at the same time. Rapin slowly stood up and walked over to stand with his head bowed regretfully at the remains of the evil black one. The 30.06 bullet pierced through its face and exited slightly below its neck. In the director's room by the glass window, everyone let out a breath of relief. "That's right, Amphan," one of the 2 gentlemen guests groaned. "He may be small, but his skills and kindness are not small at all. I have shot tigers twice. To be honest, my hands were shaking like a spirit possessing me while I was shooting. I told myself that among all the brave people, I was one of them. When I shot, I was sitting in a shopping mall. But if you gave me 100,000 baht reward and let me walk in with a gun and shoot a tiger face to face like this, I wouldn't take it. I really like his close-range shooting, the other man said, his eyes still fixed on the same target sparkling brightly. First I thought he was going to shoot through the hornbill's cage. But he waited for the right moment for it to pounce and shoot at that moment. I want to believe Kun Amphan that he is a gentleman and a good sportsman. Even animals give him a chance. If he had not been good, he might have died just now. It was a fair exchange. He must have been injured. When I saw him jump down and fall down by the tiger. Even though he shot it to death, why did he get up normally? They were all gathered around him. The young woman who was using binoculars to survey the situation from every distance spoke up. The way she spoke seemed to be intentionally talking to her older brother. But the director of Thai Wildlife Company politely replied, "That bullet of his must have cut off the most important part of its brain, madam. It died instantly as soon as it jumped down before it could hurt him. He was knocked down by the force of its jump." Rabindranath likes to shoot animals as they charge forward like this. At the end of last year, he had to stay in Bangkok hospital for more than 2 months because he shot and injured a bull, which his local hunter had shot first. His bullet cut off the bull's brain accurately, but his bad luck was a bit worse because he shot it as it charged forward. At a distance of no more than 15 meters, it hit him with the force of the run and flew to the ground unconscious, breaking his ribs. It itself fell face down next to his body. In fact, he has almost died because of his profession many times before. Hey! He's coming over there. We'll probably meet him in a few moments. Rapin Praewin opened the living room door of the director of Thai Wildlife Company. A company that had a contract to buy live wild animals with him for a long time. He stepped in and stopped for a moment. Amphan Falcorn, who was already smiling brightly, greeted him and walked over to the reception desk. At this moment, 3 people he had never met were staring at him with the same eyes. He had not had the chance to clearly observe them because he was talking and greeting the company director. "I am sorry that the accident happened. One of your people was seriously injured. 4 or 5 people were bleeding because of their own carelessness." The headhunter spoke calmly. His tone was soft. Amphan laughed heavily and put his arm around her shoulder. "Oh. Small matter. Don't worry about it, Mr. Rapin. Thank you so much for helping to arrange everything. If you weren't here today, I think it would have been quite a mess to get it under control. It's possible someone might have died. It was my people's fault. But I really regret it. It is the most beautiful black panther I have ever seen. Never mind. What can I do? If we don't kill it, it will definitely kill one of us. If it escapes like this, we have to shoot it. There is no hope of capturing it alive. I am willing to pay you according to the price. But don't worry about anything else about this. I am waiting to see you." Amphan paused for a moment, turned to the 3 people who were silently staring at Rapin Praewin's appearance. At this moment, he and the headhunter were standing in front of them. Then the director of the company that exported wild animals abroad, Abhisit, spoke quickly. "This Rapin, the 3 of you sitting here have very important business with you and have traveled from Bangkok to wait here to meet you. It was more than 2 hours before you arrived. I was the one who contacted and sent a message in advance to let you know that today is the day you will come to deliver the animals as scheduled. So I made an appointment for you." Rapin Praewin looked a little confused. His dark brown eyes scanned the faces of the 3 people again. He only saw the 2 men standing up and smiling at him. The young woman sat cross-legged, as before, but stared at her deep, sharp black eyes. Mr. Amphan, the director who owned the place, introduced her. "This person is Lieutenant Colonel Mam Rajawang's Dwarat. Former military attaché to the United States but currently retired. This person is Major Chayan Anantrai, a close friend who is also retired." Both greeted him first and extended his hand for him to shake. Rapin shook his hand and bowed his head. After greeting both of them, Mr. Amphan gestured to the young woman. She had been looking at him the whole time. "And this lady is Dr. Mam Rajawang's Dwarat, younger sister of Kunchai Chesta, a student who is about to do a PhD in anthropology." He bowed his head to the young woman who was introduced last again. She seemed to smile at him a little and bowed her head in a respectful manner. "Please sit down, Kun Rapin. I am very pleased to meet you as I intended." Chet the Dwarat, a retired lieutenant colonel, said in a low, gentle and polite voice and smile. Everyone sat down as usual, including Rapin, who was the last to sit down, still confused. Colonel Chayin poured him brandy. The chief hunter could not guess who the three people who were waiting to meet him at this time were. What is the purpose? Tell yourself from your observations at this moment that Amar Chetha is a young man about 35 years old. He looks calm and cool. His complexion and posture clearly show that he is from a royal family. But he looks strong like a real man. Major Chayin must be no more than 33 years old. His characteristics are both a playboy and a risk-taker mixed together, inseparable. As for that young woman, there are many things that catch your eye, whether it's her face or her figure. She hides her slim and proportionate body in a pair of white jeans and a dark blue sports shirt. The contrast with her skin color, Maprang, stands out. You can clearly see the perfect beauty of her proportions. She probably isn't a young girl. Just looking at her from the corner of his eye, he can calculate that her age must be no less than 25-26 years old. He doesn't doubt at all that she is Amar Chetha's younger sister, because the patterns on her face are similar. But I am still skeptical that this beautiful princess is a doctor and anthropology student who is about to do a PhD. She should be a fashion model. Nothing is more important than her arrogant and reserved appearance, which seems to be very different from her brother. This Princess Darin Wararit. We have heard of your reputation for a long time. We just met you in person today, Chayin said, handing over a glass of brandy. Excuse me, is there anything I can help you with? Rabindra asked softly and politely, looking nervously at Mr. Amphan, as if asking for an answer from his current state of confusion and unpredictability. Young master, please start talking. Talk freely, don't worry. There's nothing urgent between me and Mr. Rabindra. In any case, Mr. Rabindra will have to stay in this district for at least 2-3 nights before returning to the forest. There will be more than enough time for us to talk. A moment of silence fell. Former royal military attaché took out his camera and put it in his pocket. His expression became serious. Something was clearly worrying in his eyes as he stared fixedly at the great hunter. Mr. Rabindra, Amar Chetha then began in a low voice. Last year, you were traveling in a forest area that the villagers called Pong Krathing to the north of Non Nam Heen, right? The hunter frowned, thought for a moment, and nodded. It was full of doubt that his movements were under the knowledge of this gentleman. His life in the forest was of no importance to anyone. It was unlikely to interest anyone. Yes, I live around there. You set up a trap station there. Chayin quickly interjected. That's right. I set up a trap camp there and stayed until I got the number of animals I wanted. Chetha sighed heavily. His gaze staring at him was filled with mysterious heat. Have you ever met a hunter from the capital city named Chot Prachakorn there? Raffin was quiet as if he was thinking for a moment, then lowered his head again. Yes, I did. He came to camp next to my camp for about 2 weeks to rest before continuing his journey. Oh, seems that I received a letter from a lawyer about 3-4 months ago asking what I knew about this hunter from the capital city named Chut Fu. I have already written a letter back to that lawyer. As far as I know at that time, Chetha, Chayin and Darin looked at each other and then passed to his face with one eye as before. Chetha continued slowly and carefully. The lawyer whose letter you sent to inquire is my own lawyer. Your letter has been forwarded to me. You said in that letter that a gentleman from Phra Nakhon named Chot Prachakorn had set out from Pong Krathing at the beginning of May with a local hunter named Nanan, stating his intention to travel into the forest to the furthest Karen village, Lam Chang, which is on the border with Burma. He told you that he would leave his cart and unnecessary belongings there and travel to Lam Chang as he had told you because you had passed through that village on one occasion and saw his cart and some of his belongings, as far as you can remember, in the care of a Karen. The news you know is that Chot and his servant, a local hunter named Nanan, had gone deep into the forest, just as he had told you. Yes, that's what I wrote, the chief hunter agreed. Then they were all silent for a moment. Amar Darin Wararit, who had been sitting together quietly without saying anything at all since the beginning, moved uncomfortably and leaned over to grab a cigarette from the box in the middle of the table. Rapin had already been playing with a lighter in his hand. He lit it right away and handed it to her. Her sharp eyes glanced up at him for a moment before lighting it. Darin thanked him softly and blew the smoke up high. Whether she was a female doctor, a PhD student in anthropology, or whatever Mr. Amphan had suggested, in Rapin's eyes at the moment, he saw her as a child who had been pampered and spoiled to the point of being used to it. Miss Rapin, said the gentle older brother. I think you might have a hunch, or if not, guess the reason for Chot Prachikorn's journey. Please tell me the truth. What was his intention in traveling through the deep and remote forest that time? I have known a little bit. In some things, Rapin Prawan said carefully, but then stopped as if he was going to change his mind, which made Chesta and Chayin even more nervous and restless. He quickly said, first of all, to cut off the problem, to cut off all your doubts, I would like to be the one to tell or explain something to you clearly. That's good, Chayin added quickly, turning to look at his friends who were in the group. At least you, Rapin, will be able to stop doubting. He still doesn't know anything. What is the purpose of our meeting with him? At the beginning of the year, we asked him questions as if there was some kind of investigation that he didn't know. That's right, big brother. Is wasting time. That was the first sentence that MRW Ying Daran heard for the first time. She blurted it out in annoyance, leaning over and flicking the ash from her cigarette hard. Just tell her that Mr. Chot Prachikorn, or whatever that is actually the younger brother of the eldest brother and the older brother of Noi. We want to investigate and track down the person who used this fake name. And if possible, we want to hire a great hunter like him to be our guide. While Rapin was even more confused, the older brother turned to look at his younger sister with a reproachful gaze. Muttering something under his breath, the young woman laughed strangely, feeling that she was really annoyed by this conversation. He got up and walked to the window to smoke and look at the view. MRW. Chesta turned to the hunter again. Excuse me, my younger sister is a bit hot-tempered. She has always been like this. The youngest sister of my siblings, the youngest daughter of my parents. Though her power is even greater than the black leopard that escaped the cage a moment ago. Paul. LT. Chayin interjected softly, as if he was complaining to himself. It showed a great deal of familiarity. She seemed to hear her male friend's gossip, replying while still standing with her arms crossed, looking at something at the window. Don't talk too much, Chayin. Your appendix that I operated on could flare up at any time. Big Brother is the same. He was the cause of all this trouble. Wasn't it because Big Brother had a serious fight with Big Brother? Others sided with Big Brother and everything until Big Brother had to stagger and wander out of the house, becoming a lost person like this. At that time, Noi was not in Thailand to see what happened. If Noi had been there, Noi would never have sided with Big Brother. And Big Brother would not have staggered to this point. Who knows what would happen now? The older brother was silent. The male friend frowned and chuckled, not replying at all. Mr. Amphan, director of Thai Wildlife Company, laughed softly, his manner full of humility and flattery. It seemed that everyone was considerate of her, especially the arrival of these three people. They were very warmly welcomed by Mr. Amphan. The relationship of respect and devotion was a pre-existing capital, which showed that there had been. Now, even though he still couldn't quite figure out what was going on, Rapin could guess vaguely what was going on. Mom Rajawang Starin was still leaning against the window, facing down to the animal cage below. The afternoon sun shone on her slender figure, making every part of her figure clearly noticeable, more noticeable than when she was sitting. She was a little taller than the average Thai woman, with broad shoulders, a narrow waist and thick round hips, even more so than her brother. With large, strong legs and tight jeans. Her skin looked dark, like the skin of someone who likes to play in the sun and wind, like many outdoor athletes. Her nose was upturned, showing her stubbornness. Her lips were thin, showing a temperamental, arrogant look. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, and at times, she might have a hint of ignorance because of her own arrogance. She was quite experienced in the world at that age, but not to the point of being rough. Rapin looked at her without realizing it, and was startled when Amar Cheta broke the silence and said, "That's right, Mr. Rapin. Chot Prachikorn, who met you, is actually my younger brother and Daran's older brother. He's Amar. Enucha Wararit." The great hunter exclaimed. Now he could remember. Of course, the first time he came and saw Amar Cheta, he told himself that it was like he had seen him somewhere before. But then it was the image, the memory that he had seen from Chot Prachikorn, the wandering hunter from the capital. The two brothers were very similar. "There are three of us," Cheta continued in a low voice, while Chayin and Amphan looked sad. It seemed that both of them had seen the incident before. He's the middle brother. 5 years ago, I never thought that we would have such a big disagreement and verbal conflict. It seemed like our misfortune, but it was a normal thing between brothers, like the tongue and teeth. I confess that at that time I did something unfair to him because of my anger. Paul. LT. Chayin slowly shook his head and let out a soft shriek. Of course, he was one of the people who closely witnessed the events between the brothers. At that time, our father was still alive. He sided with me in our quarrel. He ran away and disappeared from the house. In the end, our godfather passed away. He did not receive a single baht and did not return to the family home again. I began to realize my own heartlessness and went to investigate and track him down. After investigating for years, I could vaguely guess that he had changed his name to Chot Prachakorn and gone into the forest to seek his fortune in vain. I only found out about this incident 3 years ago. I had no chance to track him down during that period because he refused to contact me at all. Until the last time I heard from Mr. Rappin, who informed my lawyer. I learned that Mr. Rappin was not only an experienced hunter, but also a fighter in the true style of a real man. Still a gentleman enough to be aware of my family's secret and may be able to help me. Your correspondence with my lawyer has already given me half hope that you know about the developments regarding my blood brother Anacha. The last time you saw him, he was still safe and alive. This gives me hope that I will be able to track him down. You haven't told Rappin clearly how we need help, Paul. LT. Kayan protested. I want to track him down, Rappin. No matter how much money we spend and no matter how dangerous it is. The one who will risk his life with me this time is Chayant. He's a retired soldier. Right now, his personal life has no definite destination. He's a fighter who takes risks. Our history is that I, Anacha, and Chayant have been in a relationship since we were children. The three of us love each other very much. When I had a problem with Anacha, Chayant knew about it all along. But he had no way to reconcile our brothers. He only felt anxious and worried for me. When I thought of it and decided to follow Anacha, Chayant fully supported me. And he is ready to go with me. I went after my younger brother, and he went after his best friend. Before Mr. Chetta could finish his sentence, Mr. Yingdaran turned back and said calmly, Big Brother and Chayant should not forget Noi either. And the reason for thinking of going after Big Brother Klang this time was because of Noi. Before Big Brother realized that he was wrong, he had to argue with Noi for many days. Don't you remember? Didn't Noi tell Big Brother that if Big Brother didn't think of going after Big Brother Klang, Noi would go after him herself? The two men, one brother and one friend, were completely silent. They could only look at each other, feeling uncomfortable. Mr. Daran laughed softly, walked back and sat on one of the sofas, opposite the great hunter, Rappin. Her eyes were fixed on him, and she spoke in a clear, resonant voice. I hope you don't mind telling us in detail about the man named Chok Prachakorn. That was the first sentence. She spoke to him directly, with a pleading look in her face and eyes. Rappin Praywin met her eyes for a moment, then turned his gaze to Chesta and Chayin. He didn't want to pay attention to her. What was the point of having a beautiful, stubborn, classy lady? This woman. She could be a doctor or an anthropologist, but definitely not a hiker, he thought. Thank you for listening to the end. If you like it, please like, follow, and share with your friends to have fun together. See you in the next episode.